Everybody now, let me see your hands up. Everybody now, let me see your hands up. Everybody now, let me see your hands up. Right now, hands up, hands up. Everybody now, let me see your hands up. Everybody now, let me see your hands up. Everybody now, let me see your hands up. Right now, hands up, hands up. Everybody now, let me see your hands up. Everybody now, let me see your hands up. Everybody now, let me see your hands up. Right now, hands up, hands up. Everybody now, let me see your hands up. Everybody now, let me see your hands up. Everybody now.
I will know, and if you have over there, over there, we find the friend them over there, over there, we find the girl them over there, over there, we play a job over there, tell me over there, come to Mars.
Tell them pass the rum, ice, the place full of woman and vibes. Watch how the party turn up tonight, because we out and bad and the people fed and we causing trouble. Somebody give me room to mash up this place, front to the back to jump up and wave. Whole place shell is madness in here, bring everything way up in the air. Show them up there, front to the back to jump up and wave. Whole place shell is madness in here, bring everything way up in the air. Show them up.
One link, one order, and that we defend. We going down to the end.
Cause it's a whole run away,
Touch one, you touch all.
and the road is the gallery.
And then when my friend them call,
It's a whole gang away.
we have been blinking bad. All my friend them stinking mad. We have been blinking bad. Martin call me the drinking god. We have been blinking bad. All my friend them stinking mad. We have been blinking bad. All night we pumping and we conking, whining and a drunking. Pure sunset and fun. Hey, all houses road right now. All houses road. All houses road right now. All houses road. All houses road right now. All houses road. All houses road right now. All houses road.
I just want to see who are the maddest crew. Who are the maddest crew? Who are the maddest? Who are the maddest? Who are the maddest crew? Who are the maddest crew? Who are the maddest crew? I say my team was the new and this is what they love to do. My crew does go on defense and start to shake it. Grab a gal and dislocate it. You feel your bad? My crew go really hard. Go on defense and start to shake it. Grab a gal and dislocate it. You feel your bad? My crew go really hard.
So sorry about that.
And of course, I am on mute because I'm always on mute. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, ladies. How are you doing?
Doing well.
Great. Good evening to our viewers. Happy Monday. I know we usually have the show on a Wednesday, but I am traveling this week, so kind of had to move some things around, so we do it on Monday. But welcome to Caribbean Women's Network. Today we are talking to women on the move. We've actually been having a little bit of technical difficulties. So viewers, just please bear with us in case anyone drops off. They'll definitely be back on. I know we lost another speaker a few minutes ago, so we're just waiting for her to pop back in. But I hope everyone is doing well. I hope everyone is blessed. Want to give a special shout out to my sponsors, both GenX Carnival, as well as Discover Me. They have body wash and body butter and all of that, amazing stuff that you want for your skin. So thank you guys so much. Like I said, I'm speaking with a group of talented Caribbean women tonight who are just excelling in their industries. It's a huge pleasure to just share space with you women, learn about your journey, and, just learn about the struggles and the successes and all of the things that you guys go through and have gone through to be at where you are. So again, please welcome Melissa Noel, and we also have Megan Carrowood.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yes. So we can, get right into this. Give me 1 second. I see it looks like Naomi is back connected again. Let's add her in here. Hey! Please welcome Ms. Naomi Cohen.
Hello, everybody. Sorry for the mess.
No, that's fine.
Okay,
We
I'm
actually
still
just
very happy to be here.
just reconnected all over again. So why don't I start with, you guys just letting us know a little bit about yourselves. Melissa, you're at the top of the screen, so we can start with you first.
Sure. I'm Melissa Noel. I am the founder of Melanin Media LLC, and I'm a contributing news and politics editor at essence.com. And I'm a proud Guyanese American and just really, really excited to be here because I'm known for focusing on telling underreported stories, specifically about the Caribbean and Caribbean diaspora. And I can tell you it's definitely been an incredible and also challenging journey in news to tell our story. So really happy to share a little bit about carving out my own niche with you tonight.
Yay, welcome. And Miss Cohen.
Hey everybody, my name is Naomi Cowan. I'm a singer-songwriter, and I am a music producer from Kingston, Jamaica. And outside of my musical pursuits, I consider myself just an overall creative. In other words, I love to create experiences through what I do right now musically, but I've been involved in so many different things, especially in the area of youth and women empowerment. So, I consider myself a voice for those that feel like they have to be silent.
Thank you. And Miss Megan Herwood.
Hi, everybody. My name is Megan. I am the founder of The Good Quote, the largest motivational platform on the world. We have an audience of 25 million followers. I've been building communities for the last 8 years. I specialize in content creation, copywriting. We own an agency where we work with writers of color, splitting the profits 50-50, and I guess just spreading their books and their words all over our platform. And we've been doing this now for the last 8 years. I started a blog in 2011 called Cushion Wisdom. It was the first blog to really focus on pushing meaningful messages through picture quotes. And that basically is where my journey started.
And she's a fellow Caribbean sistren. So.
Oh, yes, I'm born in London, but I'm from Trinidad.
Wonderful. So we can start right off. Today, Naomi is going to be speaking to us about mental health and the fear of failure. So looking forward to this one. The stage is yours, Naomi.
Yes. So funny that I've had a perfect segue. I hope I can contribute to this platform and to this forum. I, as a female who's an independent artist in, an ever-changing music industry, there's a lot that's constantly happening and a lot that is changing. One of the things that I wanted to share when I shared with Kira privately about my journey was just the fact that I don't have everything together. I really don't have it all together. And I recognize that somehow I've managed to give off that appearance, which is awesome. But at the same time, it's also not super healthy because then you create an or a bit of a presentation that comes off one way, but behind
It looks like we're losing connection there. I'm not sure if it's just on my end. Melissa,
No,
are you hearing her clearly?
No, I'm not. I'm not.
Okay, we'll give it a second and see if that changes. She may be driving through a bad area.
Same.
Is it still you guys?
The screen is frozen, and
Yeah,
I feel like I heard one word. Everyone that's watching, please bear with us here. Technology is not always our friend.
but we make it work regardless.
Yes, we do. Okay, so it looks like we actually just lost her there. Okay, you know what? Well, Mel, you are stable and your connection is good. So you know what? We will, when Naomi comes back on,
We'll get her back on the phone.
Yeah, we'll get her back on. So why don't we chat with you? I know that we're going to be talking today about carving your own path. So let's go.
Yeah, let's do it. So good evening to everyone, or maybe it's good morning, depending on where you're joining us from. I'm just really excited to talk to you a little bit about carving out your own niche. So as I mentioned, I'm founder of Melanin Media, and I am a contributing editor for Essence. But at my core, like what I was always taught in news is that you had to do things a certain way, right? Like I had to go to local news. I had to focus on politics. I had to do certain things in order to be successful in the industry, work my way up, become that famous reporter or what have you, or work my way up to the anchor desk, which is what I thought I really wanted. But at the end of the day, like what really kept me up at night was the fact that I wasn't seeing Caribbean stories in major North American media. And I was like, I know so many great things happening, outside of the regular coverage of, let's say, hurricanes or some other kind of disaster. And I really wanted to see the culture stories, the business stories, the fashion stories, the mental health stories. I mean, all the stories that show that we are multifaceted, multidimensional people, and we have different experiences, and it shouldn't just be all in one and the same. So I did something that was really frowned upon, right? Which is I left my, good full-time role after I left ABC News in around 2012. I went freelance and I went to NBC, and I decided that after that contract was up, I was going to just travel throughout the Caribbean and tell stories from the region and sell them back to the networks that weren't necessarily, it's not that they didn't want to cover it, but it's like when it comes to the budgets and it comes to who's there and who knows how to get the pitches in and that kind of stuff, I was seeing that disconnect. And I said, you know what? This is what I love. This is what I'm passionate about. This is what keeps me up at night. And I decided to become a freelancer, meaning that like I no longer had a full-time job with any of these networks. I was, hustling to be able to report for several different ones so that I could tell these stories. And what I ended up doing over the span of about 2.5 years between 2014 and 2016 was really building this rapport for myself. NBC, Huffington Post, One Caribbean Television, CBS, Puerto Rico, what have you, being down in the region, anywhere from Trinidad and Barbados on through to St. Vincent, Jamaica, there by my family in Guyana, and really just being that go-to person that was not only telling these stories, but also telling our newsrooms how we got it wrong and when we got it right too. And so for me, what that turned into was an entrepreneurial journey, which was something I was never taught about. I was never taught about the business of the media industry, the money that you can make in it, the contracts that I need to be leveling for myself, right? As not only as a reporter, but as a young woman who really wanted to not just be the face that tells the story, but actually be the person that is negotiating the deals behind the scenes where the real money is made, right? So I had to learn by trial and error, which was not easy. I made a lot of mistakes, but I think once I recognized that the business aspect of media is really important, and understanding that meant that I could get more money to tell our stories, right? I could get bigger budgets to tell our stories, but getting people to understand the importance, right? Which is something that can be frustrating to some, but for me, I used it as like I saw it as a challenge, but I also saw it as a good challenge that I could go to newsrooms and say, hey, you have at the time, right? I think the number was 4 million people who in America who are of Caribbean ancestry. Of course, now we know with the last census that is a lot higher. And because now you can put in country of origin if you have, if you're first generation, second generation, what have you. But I was able to say, hey, like you are missing out on these millions of people by not having news coverage that focuses on them and what they care about. And we're losing a whole segment of our audience, and we need to focus on them. So I was able to go in there with numbers. And then what numbers meant for me was also turned into the sponsorships or the fellowships that I needed to fund a lot of my projects. And then from there, I recognized that, hey, it was time to start my own LLC. Why should it always be, me filling out like an invoice, for Melissa Noel? Why shouldn't it be under my company and me be able to garner a year, 2-year contract with a particular news agency, media company, where I could provide them the hosting, the videography, the gathering of let's say video that they may need, or to send other people out to get the stories done. The content, whether it was writing copy for TV, for print, for digital, writing scripts, commercials, what have you, and learning that the business side was where it's at. And I really appreciated the fact that I didn't, one thing, as a Caribbean woman, I think that I kind of always take with me from a cultural perspective is that entrepreneurial spirit. And I said to myself, as much as I thought that I had to do it one way, it's time to take that hustle out and do it another way. And so while a lot of people thought, well, how are you supposed to make this work? This is not how you're supposed to do things. I took a chance on myself. And so I've been in business, I guess you would say, for about 4 years now, bringing all of the contracts that I have under Melissa Noel Media and being able to do the things I love, make good money from it, but then also stay true to who I am, right? And making sure that we have soca, at Essence Fest, or we have, coverage. We have Caribbean coverage, not just when it's I guess, fashionable or trendy, but all year round for all facets in all ways. And so for me, it is both gives me great pride, but also a lot of responsibility to ensure that we're seeing, our stories in National Geographic and Essence and ABC and what have you, and then taking other people with me, right? I think is really critical. And what I do is talking to other people, whether you're a travel agency in St. Vincent and you want to figure out how to get coverage, you are a PR agent that works somewhere in the region, I always make sure I make time to connect, collaborate, see how we can pitch angles, or if it's not something I can do, who is someone that I know at another outlet where it will make sense. I think that's really, really critical, understanding how the landscape works and then using it to our advantage in the sense that we're helping each other get the stories out there that we know are important and we know people would care about. But it's just like, how do you do it? Who are the gatekeepers? Who do you go to? And how do you make people care? So for me, it's been an incredible 12-year journey that has not come without its challenges. I took a lot of pay cuts. I dealt with a lot of, naysayers and people who thought that this didn't make sense. And I was like, not doing what I needed to do to make my career successful. I should have been on CNN and doing politics, and that's serious journalism. And I've been able to really have impactful stories where I've gone to the United Nations and I've advocated on behalf of Caribbean people, whether it be from migration standpoint, cultural standpoint. We've been able to do a lot of live broadcasts that have changed the game for a lot of people. And also, to help to pay it forward and to bring other people with us. So I think that's really like the purpose of why I do it, what I do. And then with Melissa Noel Media, I specifically focus on telling stories of the Caribbean diaspora and greater African diaspora in general. And so we're a niche company where people come to us because they know we'll not only tell those stories, but tell them authentically. So that's my little 2 cents to start off. And I would just love to kind of hear kind of your questions at the end in terms of kind of my journey and what it's taken me to get here. I'm still learning for sure, but I love the fact that community has been a big, big thing for me. Even being in this space is really exciting for me because it's shown me that people recognize the work that I'm doing for communities, our different communities, and the fact that we're all connected in this way lets me know that we're in community with each other, and like we see each other, we respect, we come together, we collaborate, and that's why we're here tonight. So thank you all.
That mute button. Thank you so much, Melissa. I really, really appreciate that. And thank you for all that you do. Thank you for, continuing to keep the Caribbean on the map and showcasing the culture and just doing all that you do, advocating for the Caribbean. So thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I'm sure the viewers and everybody else in the Caribbean as well. It looks like we actually just lost Megan as well, so she'll probably be popping back in, and Naomi as well will be joining us again. But let's welcome 𝑾𝒐𝒎𝒆. Hello, 𝑾𝒐𝒎𝒆.
Hi, how are you guys? Thank you so
I'm
much for having
good.
Doing
me.
well.
Of course. No, it's a pleasure. We're having all kinds of technical difficulties with phones connecting and all kinds of stuff. But, like Mel said, we're here and we're doing this, and it's just going to continue to be a great conversation. So you can go ahead and introduce yourself, 𝑾𝒐𝒎𝒆. Let them know where you're representing from. And I know today you're going to be touching as well on, unconventional careers, building legacy, and all of these great things.
Yes. Okay, so I am 𝑾𝒐𝒎𝒆. I live in New York now, but I am from Trinidad, South to be exact, past the lighthouse. And today I want to touch on the unconventional careers. I started my love for beauty. It honestly didn't even feel like it was going to be a career for me, like any other grandmother, any typical grandparents in Trinidad. They want you to go to UE, they want you to do all of that. And I really had an interest in marketing and advertising. And Kira, if you want to chime in, please let me know if you have any additional questions. I'm happy to pause if necessary. But beauty was never really seen as a career for me, and also by my family really never even saw it as a career. I don't think back in 2011, I aged myself here. I don't think any of us really thought, we didn't realize how big the industry would be, right? And today, really, I want to kind of just summarize all my thoughts into 3 takeaways. Because for me, when I first moved to New York, which was 9 years ago, there's a few things that I want to share that kind of changed not only my life, but, my trajectory. And I would start by saying, the first one is to put yourself out there. So just to kind of take you back a little bit, I started my career in Trinidad. I was just playing in makeup, started to work at MAC. And then after a year, I was like, okay, I want to move to New York. And, thankfully, I was actually born here and grew up in Trinidad. So I moved. That's a whole short story, long story made short. But I moved to New York. And similar to Melissa, I was told there was only one path. When you come here, you have to do this, and that. And you're not seen as professional if you're a content creator. And I really want to bring this part in because this is a part that I don't really talk about a lot. And when I came here, I had my head down. I was very much into the business of beauty. I was like, okay, this is what I need to do. This is where I need to learn. And I was very focused on, I want to be on set. And I've worked, with Essence, with Glamour, Teen Vogue. I've assisted a lot of people like Pat McGrath, Sir John, Kabuki. I've been in a lot of rooms, and I've learned a lot, but my biggest lesson is putting myself out there. And for me, what that really means is that I would go to events by myself. I would come, me and Kira, we've never met before, but she'd send me a DM, Aaron, link us up, so sometimes you have to when you're thinking about unconventional careers, you also have to think of, it's not just me doing the thing, it's me putting myself in unconventional situations, things that are going to make me uncomfortable, because that's also going to take you out of your comfort zone. So that's one of my biggest things, is to always make sure that you're putting yourself out there, regardless of your career. Obviously, in a creative career, you just never realize who you might meet, whether it's somebody that's, above you or aside of you or coming up. Your community is really everything, especially when you are a freelancer. And then for me, the second one too is, not getting caught up on things that didn't happen. So, when I first moved here, I kind of put down my YouTube channel. I started my YouTube channel when I was in Trinidad. And like I mentioned earlier, it was very much, well, you're not seen as professional. You're putting makeup on yourself. You're not really a makeup artist. You're just an influencer. So I kind of put that down. And I really used to beat myself up about that. But you really have to understand that things that didn't happen, your path is unfolding as it should. For me now, what I do is I have a podcast called The Life of a Makeup Artist. And my entire, goal and purpose with that is to share the stories of the people that I meet along the way, especially as a Caribbean woman living in New York. Because when you really look at press and, all these things, obviously they want to talk to people that are celebrities. But for me, I'm like, okay, well, I want to talk to my friends that I know that that are doing amazing things. I want to talk to people that may not necessarily get the shine that they deserve. And the way that my career has unfolded, it has been literally perfect, because now I straddle both lines. I am a makeup artist and I'm also a content creator, and I am doing quite well in both. So if I had decided years ago, like, oh, I like, let me just do this one thing, I might not have the opportunities that I have today. So when I say don't get caught up on things that didn't happen, I really just want you to not kind of like, sometimes we beat ourselves up, but well, I wanted to have that job, or I wanted to meet this person. I really stand by, like, listen, what's for you will always be for you. And then the next one also is to do what you can with what you have. And I really love what you were saying, Melissa, like seeing soca at Essence, like, although I miss Marshall and Cass, I was so sad.
How could you?
I had to work. But to me, that's important, because sometimes I'll go into a room, or when I'm on set, like if I'm on set and I have like my one of my assistants that help me, one of my friends, she is also Trini. So I'll be like, make sure my accent song is strong, make sure my accent, because I want people to hear me. I want people to realize that there are Trinidadian people out here in the industry, and they're like, oh, your accent's still so strong. Like, yes, you're not going anywhere. I'm an adult, So for me, it's important to always represent, in whatever room I'm in. So when I say do what you can, what you have, sometimes I have to really take a step back and understand that I've been in this industry for a while. I have amazing connections, and I'm very cognizant of the opportunities that I get. But sometimes, even if it kind of pisses off people, I have to fight to get my people in the room, because everybody else does that. So if I have to say, no, I don't want that person on set, like I have my own person, I'll bring in, if it's Anya, if it's whoever, anybody I know that's from home that I can bring into the room. Because for me, I am also like, listen, I'm not going to be around for forever. If my podcast, if an episode, if something that I do is going to help somebody along the way, I'm going to do it. If I can help somebody from home, or some friend of a friend, like that's how, like, if the other people do it, I could do it too. You know what I mean? So at this point, in my career, I'm just, I'm really taking things in stride, because I am very like grateful of the projects that I'm on. I'm still doing a bit of fashion and stuff, but I really, my focus is in beauty. So I do a lot of beauty shoots and in front and behind the camera, and then I also like obviously like do content and stuff. So that's kind of just where I'm at. I don't know if anyone has any questions, or if Kira wants to like chime in, but for me, I'm just like, if you have any type of career that you want to go into, whether it's beauty or music or whatever, the biggest thing that you need is belief. I didn't talk about this, but when I first moved to New York, it was a book that I was reading called Write It Down, Make It Happen. And I did not realize that I was even going to move to New York. I was like, no, I'm going to stay in Trinidad. I started working at MAG. I was like, oh, I'm just going to, do my thing here. And if it wasn't for me actually believing that I could move, or like, because when you're home, when you're in a small place and you're thinking about a big country like the US, you're like, oh my God, like, how am I ever going to meet people? How am I ever going to, so that kind of takes me back to some of the points that I made. Like, you have to go to events by yourself. You have to put yourself in different situations. So, whatever career it is that you're thinking of, just literally study your craft, like study the business of beauty. When I first came here, the first class I took was a business class. Like, hands down, first class I did was a business class, because literally, obviously, they both work hand in hand. So yeah, I think that's it. I feel like I'll talk for forever, but yeah.
You're totally good. Oh, looks like we got Megan back. All right, thank you so much, Jalisa. Exactly.
Sorry about that.
Exactly, like, it's okay, no problem. It seems everybody is having some kind of internet Wi-Fi issue today. So, but yes, Jalisa, exactly what you said. Belief is so important. I think it sounds very cliche sometimes when you see all these little memes and things. It's like, believe in yourself, and a lot of people take that for granted, because really it begins with you at the end of the day. And if you don't believe in yourself, how is someone else going to believe in you? You have to be confident in what you want, and you have to believe in, your dreams, and also take the steps necessary to be able to achieve those dreams. You can want to be a makeup artist, but have no idea you know, how to really do makeup or the business of makeup or so many things. So you really actually need to educate yourself when it comes to that as well. And then helping one another is also so very important. And you know, that's why Caribbean Women's Network is here, and that's why I built this platform, because I want to be able to unite Caribbean women, you know, create space for us to be able to share, to connect, to uplift, and to empower. You know, however I can look out for my sisterins, you know, I always will. So it's very important to be able to, you know, help us eat all rise together. You know, we are all one. We come from the same cloth. We are Caribbean. We are great. We are magic, you know. So thank you again so much for that. It looks like Naomi's still not back on, so we will just shift the conversation right over to Megan. And this actually flows right into what she'll be talking about, because she's going to be talking about the importance of building community. And I'm really, really, really excited about this as well, because the good quote, if you guys, I'm sure everyone follows the good quote, literally. I'm excited to hear from the founder, who is just always putting out content that's inspiration to other people. So
Okay, so thank you so much for your kind words. I think with my journey, it's been so fixated on community building. I have to be as honest as I can about the importance of it and what I've learned along the way. So in the beginning, I needed to go onto social media because I exhausted every other opportunity that I had in life. I dropped out of uni. I was working in a prison just so I can pay my bills. I had so many startups that failed. I was in £30,000 worth of debt at 21. A lot of my entrepreneurial, I guess, journeys, and I got to a point where nothing that I was starting or building was resonating with anybody. And that's when I realized the importance of having a community. Now, around this time was 2011, and social media was kind of brand new. Facebook just really started to become popular. Tumblr was absolutely huge, and I don't really know if Instagram was around. I think Instagram started in 2012. So I launched a blog on Tumblr called Cushion Wisdom in 2011. And I basically just used my skills to try and develop a community. Like I said, my previous entrepreneurial journeys were focused on just having the products first and then trying to find the audience after. And in this route, I decided, let me just try and build the audience or the community first and see whether they'll be interested afterwards with the product, because I'm tired of wasting money. A huge depression. I wasn't really familiar with how depression presents itself physically or even spiritually, so I wasn't really aware of what was going on with me. I just knew that I was extremely sad and life was not going into the direction that I had planned for it to do. So with the launch of Cushion Wisdom, I used my writing skills, because I write for a hobby, and I used my charisma that I'm able to talk to anybody. And so I just started making content candidly, talking about everything that I was going through, whether it was with depression or love or just the frustrations of not having a job. And this then led me into listening to music, sourcing positive quotes from music. Like Wiz Khalifa was the first was the first artist that I sourced content from, hence why the blog was called Cushion Wisdom. There was a song called The Statement. I think one of the lyrics says, this isn't the life that we chose, but it's the life that we're living, and we belong on the top, and we'll get there in a minute. And I put that into a picture quote, posted it on Tumblr, woke up the next day to 12,000 followers. So I decided, okay, there's 12,000 people here right now. There's 12,000 people here right now. Let me sell them something. So at the time, there was a slogan called Cool Story Bro. I put that on a t-shirt, and we opened up a merch store the next day, and by the end of the month I made more money than my mother made, and she was an accountant. I made about £36,000, and after that I just kept selling. And what really surprised me was how emotionally connected people were with the products, and that's literally because they spent so much time feeding and pouring into my well, I spent so much time pouring into them, and they spent so much time digesting this. Like, how are you feeling today? You know, what's one piece of advice you would give to somebody who's going through this? And it just built this community. And Tumblr was such a beautiful experience, because I don't really think anybody knew what they were doing. It was just an authentic space to share your feelings. This lasted for about 2 years, and I stopped blogging because my mother was diagnosed with cancer. And after that, in 2014, we went onto Instagram. We launched a good quote, with the same concept as Christian wisdom. We find really beautiful quotations from songs, or we find up and coming authors, preferably people of color, and we just spread their word. Everybody else was posting maybe once a day, and you know, in social media, there's the 4 C's. It's content, it's community, it's consistency, and connection, right? And so being able to embrace all of these things is what allowed us to be able to grow at such a huge rate. Everybody else is posting maybe once or twice a day. We're posting 2 quotes every hour of the day, 24 hours a day, you know. So everybody's onto the good quote, and it was, again, an amazing opportunity to talk and have really great conversations with your audience. So again, the community, the Good Vibe Tribe, is what we were called when we first started. It became a huge movement, you know. And so the importance of growing a community, especially for young creatives, I always say, like, everyone focuses on following, but if you are just a writer or a musician or whatever it is, you're selling a course, all you really need is 3,000 to 5,000 loyal followers that are actually going to purchase something that you release every month, whether it's a subscription. And that's enough money for you to be financially free, you know. And creative, very multifaceted. I'm able to build communities around every single one of my passions. It's a powerful position to put anybody in. So as soon as I realized that this is what you're able to do on social media, I went full throttle. And you know, to be able to connect with thousands of people who like the same things as you is a beautiful opportunity. Direct to consumer product, where you can spend half a year building a community if you have the patience, which is literally what I would advise anybody to do. And then you can drop a product, and at least 10% of your audience are going to buy into that. And to me, that's one of the best ways to invest into yourself. It's one of the best investments that you could ever make to yourself, you know. The importance of being audience focused. I know a lot of people look at followers, but if you were to have a room of maybe 500 people listening to what you had to say in real life, you would be blown away that 500 people decided to share this space with you. But when it's on social media, we think 500 people is nothing. And that's a really, really interesting way to look at an audience that are dedicated to you. You know, like, this is something that we all dream of having, and we all have this on, we all have access to this on our phones. So what that allowed us to do was jump into multiple opportunities via the good quote. Early 2014, we went into live events. We sold out events, because we spent so much time building a community. We didn't have to really focus too heavily on marketing campaigns. We can post a flyer and tell people, come to this location tonight, and we would sell out. And that's because we had such a great relationship with our community, you know. And then this was picked up by labels, and we actually tried to go into creating this for MTV. We were working with Warner. We helped bring out a few artists. We launched a few mixtapes, brought out a few EPs. And as much as it was fun, and you know, my business partner, a man called 𝑾𝒐𝒎𝒆, he's a music lawyer. It was really great, but it wasn't community based. We weren't really feeling anything from it, you know. So we focused more on releasing an agency, and through that agency is something that we've been working with now for the last 6 years. We're able to build communities for authors, entrepreneurs. You know, we worked with Gary V. We took him from 200 followers to 2.5 million. We worked with an author called 𝒏 𝑶𝒏, and she came to us with 200 followers. She's now on 1 million. She was the first massive motivational speaker. We took him from, you know, 150,000 to a couple of millions, and all of this was based on community, you know. And the reason why I've been able to take off 2 years, because, you know, my mother years off and then dive right back in, is because of community, you know. So I think if one of the main questions people always ask me is, you know, how do you build an audience, you know? And I would say that one of the best ways is to just be authentic. Everybody's so fixated on how their background looks, or, you know, your content has to look like. No, it doesn't. You just have to be authentic. You just have to have a reason, or you have to be a reason as to why people see value in you, you know. So whatever it is that you're passionate about, there's going to be at least 10,000 people in this world that are going to be passionate about that too. And it's for you to tap into that audience and to use that as an opportunity to sell a product, or to just grow an email list, or whatever it is that you want to do. So for me, it's simple marketing. You know, audience first is the main thing that you should be focusing on, and that has allowed me to amass a following of over 30 million people. And yeah, it's been an amazing journey. But I think one of the most best piece of advice I can give to anybody on social media is to just be authentic. So yeah, I hope that gives clarity. I'm not sure if I have to. I can't hear.
The mute button, guys.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I didn't want to interrupt you. The connection was definitely in and out, unfortunately, but I got the majority of it. So I'm hoping that everyone else was able to get.
Oh,
Melody,
no. Okay.
We're hearing. Yeah, it was literally like every maybe 5-10 seconds it would cut off. But again, like I said, I didn't want to interrupt your flow of things, because we were able to pretty much get a lot of substance from that as well. So what's interesting is, you know, what you spoke about actually in terms of people and how they view their followers. Like, I've had this exact same conversation with my friends in the past, where I've said, you know, you're online, you have an event, and let's say there's 10 people or there's 50 people or there's 100 people. You know, a lot of people are so caught up in the numbers game of, oh my gosh, you know, there's only 100 people that watched my event or my story or whatever the case is, or liked my picture. But in reality, if you had an event and you had 100 people come to your event, that's a lot of people, you know? So you saying that 500 people showed up or 500 people follow you is kind of like, guys, if you actually had that many people and you're sell off, you know, your music is sold off, your event is sold off, like it's that. So I definitely think that people need to kind of shift their mentality when it comes to how they view their following, and people that are, you know, buying into, you know, what they have, or, you know, whether it be that they're selling something or inspiration or whatever the case is, you know. So thank you again so much for sharing about building the community and the importance of that, because I think now more than ever, people really need to understand how important their voice is as well, and how they use their platform, and what they put out as well. You know, a lot of people are buying into the things that you're posting. You never know who's watching. I always keep that in mind, because I also have a kids nonprofit organization, and I try to be mindful as well of the things that I post, because I'm like, there are probably young kids that are following me, and I want to be able to put out positive messages for them as well, right? So thank you. Naomi, you are back.
I'm here.
All right.
I'm here with my luggage and my guitar. I mean, I would sing for you guys, but
she is at the airport heading back home to Jamaica. It looks like the Wi-Fi connection is good. So
listen, Give thanks, JFK. We appreciate you.
Yes,
We really
big up
do.
Red Blue. So let's go while we have you. Okay, so we're talking
Yes.
again. Let's start over. We have Naomi Cohen. She's representing from Jamaica, and we're going to be talking about the fear of failure and mental health. Mental health and in the Caribbean. You know what? I don't even want to get into it. I'm gonna let you get into it. So
Sure, sure. And feel free to interrupt with any question.
no
Feel
problem.
free to interrupt with any questions you might have as well. So, yes, hello everybody. Holding a phone in landscape is so foreign to me, but yeah. So I'm Naomi Cohen, and hopefully you may recognize some of my music. And if you don't, that's totally fine. But I'm an artist and a creator, and my artistic journey has actually been one of the most healing things I've ever been through. Meaning, prior to becoming a full-time musician, I was someone that was more pursuing like a more traditional, slightly more traditional path in my life. In other words, after high school, I had this idea that I wanted to be in broadcast television. I wanted to be like the Jamaican Oprah or whatever. And so after high school, I took a year off from after 12th or 13th, sixth form, we call it form. After sixth form, and I worked in TV. And I got into the university I wanted to get into in Toronto, and that was really my focus for a while. And I've worked in media, locally and internationally, etc. But truthfully, I had a bit of like an empty space in my heart, and it was really music. So for anybody that doesn't know my background, but I grew up in the music industry. My parents are, pretty well known in Jamaican music culture. And it was just something I always ran away from because of the fear of failure. And it wasn't even a thing where, boy, I said, it wasn't so much about me being afraid of not being good enough. I just literally did not want to be poor. And I didn't want to be broke. And I didn't want to, I think growing up in the industry and seeing the behind the scenes as to what this industry is really made of, I was really turned off. But the problem is that ever since I was a child, I've always loved performing. I've always loved writing, creating, everything. And so as I progressed as a young adult into, what was like an alternative dream, because I do have a passion for communication. I do love interviewing people. I do love writing stories, creating content. Like I have a knack for words and that stuff. But truthfully, what was going on is I was suppressing my love for music and my desire to express myself musically. I was suppressing it with that career. So fast forward, I'm working in Toronto. I have a full-time job at a tech company, at a startup that was doing really well. And I was producing content for them and doing a bunch of other things, because when you work in tech, that's just what happens. And I hit a wall for multiple reasons. My dad had a major surgery. There's just like a few things that happened in my life that made me realize how short it is. And long story short, fast forward, I just made a decision that I was just going to go back home and fully pursue reggae music. And let me tell you something, that was the scariest thing I've ever done. You know what I mean? Like, just imagine I have 2 degrees on my wall, a master's and a bachelor's. I formed this whole facade as to who I was, trying to present myself to be Naomi Cohen, broadcaster, presenter. I've interviewed at so many different places. I've traveled to New York to try and get jobs in TV. I had mentors and still have friendships from people in the broadcast, so I invested a lot of my time and heart and energy into one path. And so choosing to do something else felt just like belly bottom hurting you, scary, right? However, I recognize that if I did not do it, I would be thinking about it for the rest of my life. And I hate the feeling of regret. And I hate how sad it was making me too, because I recognize that some of my personal issues that I was experiencing was a result of self-betrayal and self-denial. In other words, the things I'm referring to is for about 4 or 5 years, I would say 4 years maybe, I actively had an eating disorder, which is a mental health condition, which stemmed from previous things that were obviously deep rooted in my life since I was a child, that I had no clue, but the eating disorder was my way of trying to find a way to control something, because I wasn't being myself. I wasn't giving myself the opportunity to pursue music. I wasn't giving myself 1,000% in all of my gifts and talents. And so that was manifesting in different ways. Anxiety, well, high functioning anxiety, high functioning depression, because I'm a great masker. And what that means is when you're really good at putting on a good face that nobody can really tell, except for people that know you. People that truly know you can probably pick up that you're not yourself, but even they can't say anything because you're not necessarily doing anything super destructive, you know? So I didn't necessarily have a substance abuse problem, or, you know, it's not like I got to the point of depression where I was not bathing, or, you know what I'm saying? I was still doing things. I was still active in my life. I was still serving my community, you know, doing a lot of amazing things, but really and truly deep down, I was dissatisfied. So I made the move and I just hit the ground running with with my music. And, you know, fast forward, I think it feels like 3.5 years later, you know, I'm actively pursuing a music career, and, you know, it's paying my bills and there's a roof over my head that I go home to in Jamaica, and it's not my parents' house. So, I mean, I'm really grateful that I am where I am, you know, and I'm still growing and still in process. But that is I hope I concisely shared a bit about like what Kira was mentioning, you know, and even now I still face that fear of failure in the small areas of my career. So every song release, you know, I think about the success of the last one, and am I going to surpass the last one, or am I going to, you know, what is this one going to do, and et cetera, et cetera. But I think for me, the way that I've finally learned how to approach the fear of failure actually came from a book called Big Magic. That's one of the things that helped me. And I recognize that fear is not necessarily terrible. What's terrible is when you allow fear to control you and control your actions. So what I try to do now is to make an effort to just be okay with the feeling of fear and do everything scared, you know? So putting up same thing, releasing a song, dropping a video, whatever. The more I do it, the less anxiety I have around it. But truthfully, there's still that little bit of fear at the bottom of your belly. And the best way that I deal with it is just to see it as normal, because we all go through it. I just think that because we don't talk about it, we don't recognize that we're not alone in that process. On top of that, I have an incredible community of friends. I mean, and I'm not just gassing them up, but the women and men, but the women that I'm close to are incredible. I did a bit of a like I took stock of my personal relationships recently, and I was almost brought to tears thinking about how incredible all my friends are. Like my girlfriends, they're smart, intelligent, gorgeous inside and out. They're thoughtful, conscious, this, that. But truthfully, that's something that I was intentional about. Meaning, when I say being intentional about it, I just mean when I reach out to people or I reach out to friends, I really let them know where I'm at and look for support where I need it, because it's hard to ask for help and it's hard to ask for support. But the more we do it, the more it becomes normal in our friendships and in our communities, where I can text 2 friends right now and be like, SOS or whatever, and they're going to call me and they know it's not a joke, right? And they know it's not going to be me crying about some guy. And even if I was crying about a guy, that's fine too. But, you know, so I think community has played a big role in my ability to stay consistent with what I'm doing, and also vulnerability within that community. So I might present as this strong, outspoken person who has it all together, but there has to be people that I can be honest with to say I don't have it all together. As a matter of fact, today, I was supposed to leave where I am yesterday, and I changed my flight, forgot to tell Kira, remembered this morning, blah, 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 blah. You know, I'm just going to let that airport noise pass. So I said that to say I had to be honest with Kira, because I mean, what am I going to do? I could have changed my flight. I was trying to change my flight, but I needed to get back home. So I just say all that to say that in my journey, it's forced me to become more honest with myself and with the people around me. And it's been probably the most beautiful part of it. You know, the performing and the this and that, all those things are awesome. And that's why I'm doing it, because I enjoy it and I love it and it makes me happy. But beyond that, the most fulfilling part of being an artist has been how I've healed as a result of my work. So I don't know if that's been 10 minutes, but
No, that's perfect.
sorry, I'm so like, by the way, my family is full of people. Like, I have two of my siblings are preachers. I mean, I'm the youngest of 7, so I have a lot of different. So I know sometimes I can like talk enough, so you have to stop me.
No, I'm thoroughly enjoying this, and
Okay.
I mean, if you want to keep going, you're more than welcome to keep going.
Yeah, no, sure. I guess what I would also touch on is, I think where I would go next, Kara, is in the idea of being honest with yourself. One of the biggest things, and I'm sure Megan, I think, and Melissa on the live, yeah, they probably can relate, because anybody that has built anything from the ground up, after a while we get to a point where we realize, rotted, I can't do this by myself. Like, I can't do this alone, right? And it's now I've gotten to that point in my journey where I am actively seeking help. In other words, I think I used to sit back and wait for help, but now I'm actually reaching out to people that I want to work with and say, hey, let's talk about this area. Are you interested in working with me in that area? And even that's very scary for me, not because I feel like I'm too prideful, but I guess maybe like that there's that fear of rejection, you know? Like, what if they don't like my work? Do they want to work? You know, those are the things you have to come to face with. But that also goes back to the fear of failure and the anxieties and the issues that come with that, you know. And, you know, truthfully, my music career has even like shown light on a lot of things in my, I guess, in my life that I was unaware of. So, you know, in 2020, I came into the knowledge of the fact that I've been living with like ADD most of my life, right? Like most creatives. And I know a lot of times we like to joke about it and we're like, yeah, man, I'm so ADD or I'm so ADD or whatever, or ADHD or whatever the case is. But truthfully, there's a lot of us Black people and then women who probably have certain mental health issues that we're not talking about openly or we're unaware of. And so we're living our lives basically trying to be, you know, a square peg in a round hole or whatever. And so even by being honest with myself and seeking help in these areas, I've become just a much better person, a better sister, a better auntie, a better daughter, a better friend to the people around me, because I'm now able to take care of myself, you know. So I really do hope that through my career, as I am growing and healing, because I first have to keep doing the work, I really do want to be able to be more vocal and open in larger forums with young girls like myself who are like me, you know, didn't understand things that were happening in their heads in a more traditional society. You know, growing up and going to school in Jamaica, all the teachers want you to do is to sit down and shut up. Whereas like I want to move around and I want to sing and I want to, you know, I'm doing my schoolwork and I'm sitting there and I'm singing, and then the teacher's upset at me because I'm disrupting the class or I'm talking too much, or, you know, there's a lot of things that happened that I don't even think my parents understood, because they're also artists, right? So I don't even think they even recognize that, wait a second, is she a little bit different? And then what are the things that we put in place to help a child like the child I once was, and things like that. So, you know, that's something that I've been really happy to be working on. And even same thing, like with the situation with me switching flights and not letting you know, that's a big part of like ADHD stuff. You know, sometimes you just forget and you have to put systems in place to manage yourself better. So yeah, that's a mouthful.
Thank you. And Naomi, we have so much work to do together, because, you know, together, and, you know, even Melissa, I feel like there's just so many young women that need direction, that needs empowerment. And there's just not enough people that are contributing to that space. You know, kudos to everyone that is doing the work and is trying to, you know, help the next generation. But we definitely need to be doing a little bit more, each of us. So, and thank you, Naomi, for being so honest and vulnerable in conversation as
Yeah.
well. That's also something that's very important, because I say all the time, this space that I've created is really for women to show up and not have to feel like they have it all together all the time. Like, we are allowed to
Yes.
share and be honest with other persons and ourselves, you know, that we sometimes we don't have it all together. Like you said, sometimes we need someone to lift us up. You know, we might be doing the uplifting all the time, and it happens to me a lot myself. I'm strong for everyone around me, and I go through days where I'm like, man, I wish someone would have me like that, but they just naturally assume that, I have it all together or I'm strong enough to handle it. So they don't think of checking in. So we definitely need to kind of change that narrative as well for women around us. But thank you so much for sharing space and sharing your truth as well with us. It looks
Yes, and
like,
I'm
go ahead.
definitely down for. No, I'm just saying I mean, ditto to everything that you said, and also, I think by creating more spaces like the one you have created here, it will open up those doors, open up that conversation. Because I remember there was a time where I would never, like, even though I had healed from, the eating disorders that I had, I didn't really want to talk about it. I never wanted like to be seen as like,
Weak.
I don't even know whether it's not yeah, it's like I was like, oh, it feels like such a privileged problem to have, like, like there's so much more going on in the world. Why do I want to talk about the fact that
Yeah.
food wasn't, but the thing is, it's also prevalent in our society, especially in Caribbean communities. Body dysmorphia, women, how they view themselves, and then how our families kind of, sometimes talk in a toxic way, the way that our families talk to us about our bodies and stuff like that. Like, that is where it's coming from. It's not really coming from just out of nowhere, So if we don't become aware when we, in our generation, how do we become better mothers and better influencers to stop that cycle of, that is, because I know a lot of people that overeat and they emotionally eat and this and that, like emotionally. I'm good, thank you. Oh, hi. Sorry. Good to see you. So
When you're dealing with a superstar, guys.
yeah, so people who emotionally overeat or do the things that we do, that's actually a problem. We might think like, oh, it's just something I do every so often, but then all it takes is one trigger. All it takes is one issue to happen in your life, or you might experience the death of a family member, or you have a financial crisis, or you lose a job, and then that little small habit turns into a 3-4 year problem. But we don't talk about it because we're not told that it's an issue. It just seems like, no, man, you name too much, or you need to eat more, you don't eat enough, or
Right.
you're too stressed out, girl, eat something, but it's actually like it's a problem. So I'm really happy that I'm at the place where I can talk about it too, just because the more I do share, even in small settings, the more people, like, afterwards someone will reach out to me, or a friend will be like, hey, I didn't know, say blah blah blah. I also, and it's so beautiful to witness.
Yeah, for sure. And your story will resonate with someone, if not the masses. Someone will need to hear that message. Someone will need that inspiration. So it's definitely, like I said, important to be able to share our stories, because every one of us is on a different journey. But there's someone that's watching us, or someone that's the universe is gonna, bring us across their path. And it's going to be a situation where it's like, wow, this has changed. This one message has changed my life in some capacity, right? So again, it's just always so wonderful being able to share space with women like you, beautiful ladies. Just listening to the things that you've gone through, because we all didn't have a silver spoon fed to us. We have gone through different things. Whether it be trauma and grief, or whatever issues that we've gone through, but we were able to push forward and use those things to motivate us to be better and do better, and then help other people along the way. I see that we actually have a couple of questions in the chat, so let me just pull them up. So Sade said, how do you deal with hate? So I guess everyone could actually contribute to this. So I can start with Mel. How do you deal with hate?
That's a great question. I think we are never going to please everyone. So I think it's really important to not try to think that what you're doing is somehow going to make every single person happy, because you could be doing the greatest thing in the world and someone will still find a way to try to tear that down or tear you down. I mean, even this morning, I was talking to a high school journalism class, and they were asking me the same kind of question. How do you deal with the naysayers and the people who don't like what you're writing about? And it's understanding that you are of service to a particular community or communities, right? It may not necessarily be one. You're doing service for different communities with your work, whether it's, you know, writing or music or the beauty or whatever it may be. But when you know your communities and you know who you're trying to serve, and you know that within those communities you are making impact, you are making difference, things are resonating with them, you work and you focus on those more. And I've had to understand, like, one of my rules is I don't read the comments on my stories because it's wild there. It's always wild. It will always be wild. What I do though is look to the people, look to that community that I've created of these people who are looking for my voice to get that story told, or looking for me to ensure that we're promoting and advocating for our, you know, cultural performers and our doctors and lawyers and what have you, and lifting them up, because those are the people that are reading my stories. Those are people who are looking for the stories, reading them, and also ensuring that they're sharing them with other people, and they show you that gratitude no matter what. So I won't say that it's not difficult. I've gotten a lot of like racist and sexist commentary, but I have learned to focus on focus on the community that I've built and keep going.
Very well said. Thank you so much, Mel. Megan, how do you usually deal with it?
Quite simple. Very much like Mel. I just focus on my contribution. You can't please everybody, and people are very vocal about how much they despise something that you may be doing.
Meg, we're losing you again with the service. To the internet gods, can you allow us to be great today, please?
You guys hear me now?
Yeah, your screen is frozen. I heard can you hear me now?
Basically, I just focus on my contribution and try not to read any of the comments. And
okay.
Yeah, I would love to say more.
Oh, looks like we just lost her again there. So she'll reconnect and come back. Naomi, how do you usually deal with the hatred from people?
Yeah, well, both Mel and Megan definitely said enough about, they said exactly what I think we all have to put into place when it comes to focusing on who is for you and not who is against you. But beyond that, I think for me, a mind hack that I have for things like negative comments and negative energy and just people that are negative without purpose, because I think, I don't mind constructive criticism, but I can easily discern when someone is actually hating. Even like a backhanded compliment, people will try to say things to you, but they don't really have anything to add. So they really are just trying to find a nice way to be mean to you. So that happens quite a bit in my space. So what I recognize and what I've learned to recognize is that oftentimes anybody that is hating on anybody at any level, truthfully, they're just projecting, and they are projecting a dissatisfaction they might have with themselves and just finding it an outlet. So I'm just your punching bag at this point in time because you're upset about something. So nowadays I really don't take most things personally, even from people that I usually would even like value their opinion, because I recognize that, you might be just you're projecting something onto me that has nothing to do with me. So I think that's my biggest mind hack for anything that might be perceived as hate, because there's so many comments that I've seen or heard or received my whole life, really, not just through music publicly. And I recognize that for the most part, because, okay, let's say if you're sitting down at a table of people and someone might be hating on, let's say, like Beyonce. I mean, I'm just saying, like, to me, it's like, are you going to pick up and do what she's done her entire life? No. So, not to see, you might be able to say, oh, Beyonce put out a new song. I'm not really the biggest fan of it, but it's a song, but people will say some really negative things about really talented people. And I recognize that they're not doing it, and they don't have the balls to do it. They don't have the guts to do it, and they'll never commit and dedicate themselves. So I think for me, more than anything, is to recognize that it has nothing to do with me, and I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing, because one comment is not gonna stop me from not writing a song. So.
I really need to like just figure out this mute button situation because it never fails. Okay, Megan, talk to us. Are we back?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, and you sound really clear.
Yeah, awesome. Quickly before it cuts out again, really just to focus on your contribution and what it is that you're actually doing. Like when you how do you deal with haters in your real life is how you should deal with them online. You know, people who are happy with their lives are not going around leaving nasty comments on social media pages. Like they're not doing that. So you have to kind of ask yourself, am I going to engage with someone who is clearly showing signs of unhappiness, who is projecting onto myself, and I clearly know that I'm not doing anything wrong here, just, you know, sharing my art or my creativity or information or however it is that you are putting value out there. I really wouldn't give it a second thought. Just don't engage and don't read it. You don't need to read it. It's not going to benefit you. It's not going to serve you. In fact, negative comments have immense power to drag you back to places that you've most likely tried to get yourself out of for months. You know, don't engage. Just don't engage.
Don't engage. Okay, got it. And the other question, yes, we did.
Okay,
awesome. The next question that we have from the audience is, how do you turn your passion into your job without losing the love you have for it in the process? Who wants to take a jab at that?
That's a good question.
I can try, because I still think I'm figuring out that question too. But yeah, sorry guys. So I'm definitely walking, but I hope you can hear me clearly thanks to the good old trusty wired headphones.
Got you.
Yeah, so the question is, how do you, without losing the passion for the job? Well, so here's the thing. I feel as though, this is my opinion, at least, when something is your passion, you can do it hungry, tired, sick, everything. Now, there are some days when I don't feel like making music, and there are some days when I don't feel like writing, or, you know, and then when I come across those days where I have the control, like let's say I don't have a booking and I'm not obligated to do it, I allow myself to be a human being, you know. So I think the best way to avoid hating it, if you want to call it that, is to actually allow yourself to be human in the process. So, oh, excuse me. So does that make sense? You know, allow yourself to be human and recognize that you're human versus constantly seeing yourself as a hustler, because I think the hustle culture has forced a lot of people into like literally working themselves to the bone. But then you do that and then you get sick, like whether it's physically, mentally, everything. And so you forget that, hey, I'm also a woman who has emotional needs and this and that. And then you turn around and you want to give up. So I think for me, the way that I was able to kind of continue doing what I decided to do without losing love for it is, first of all, I really do love it. And I know I love it because it's one of the few things that I can do all day, every day, for the most part. You know, when I'm working, I actually tend to forget to eat. People have to remind me to eat because they're like, oh my God, you need to, you know, when I have a show, I'll go the whole day without, not because I'm nervous or anything, you know, but because I'm so excited and I'm just focused. Or if I have a video shoot, I don't eat till like 11 p.m., you know? So that's one of the indicators as to why and how I know that I really love what I'm doing. But I would say, yeah, just stay human in the process and don't treat yourself like a robot. Don't treat yourself like you're like, you have to separate yourself from the job. And I think that helped me to stop basically ruining myself physically when I was, you know, transitioning from, you know, whatever I was doing into music.
Thank you. Naomi, I know that you're about to go through security now, so I think that would be a good time for you to maybe log off. So
thank you. I was so happy to meet you guys.
It was amazing having conversation with you. So thank you, thank you, thank you. We'll definitely be in touch. But safe travels back home, and we'll
Thank
see you
you.
soon,
Enough
for sure.
love. All right, cool.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so it's the three musketeers left. It looks like we've lost Jaleesa as well. Now, do you guys want to chime in on that?
I think she answered that perfectly. The only thing I'll
Yeah,
add
that
there
was
is just, yeah, it was really great. Just, and knowing that it's okay to take breaks. Like sometimes, like I am working so hard. There's the news cycle can be really heavy. And I often find myself feeling really drained. So I'll often take a step back and do something that has nothing to do with reporting, nothing to do with writing, and just enjoying just time to myself, because I am that person who will forget to eat. It's 3 p.m. and I've had nothing. That is me day in, day out. So just knowing when to take a step back. And that doesn't mean that you're like quitting or you're not you're not doing what you need to do, but just knowing that, hey, maybe today you need to focus on yourself. Maybe today is that day off. Maybe today is that day that it's just about something other than what that thing is, so that you can reset and recharge.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. And the next question that we have is, people say it takes a village to raise a child, but it doesn't stop at childhood. We as adults need that village more so now. How do you reach out to your community slash village without feeling like you're becoming a burden or too much? Oh, Mel, looks like this one's yours because we just lost Megan again.
Uh-oh. Oh my gosh. This okay. So I will say that when you build community, and I mean you truly build it authentically, like, making connections with people both off and online, showing up for people, whether that's virtually or now that we're starting to do things in person again, people will show up for you in turn. So I don't often feel like I'm being a burden, because I know that I've authentically shown up for people, whether that's attending an event, whether that's supporting something by purchasing a product, reading their work or whatever those things are. And we're constantly in communication and showing each other that we are there to support each other, even in the small ways, so that when it does come time for me to maybe need that connection for a story or want to talk to you or have that interview or just do something, we're in a space where we're regularly doing for each other, if that makes sense, but not in a do for do kind of, situation. It's not like you do for me, now I have to do for you. Just more so like we've created a rapport where I can call on you, or I know that when I do need to call on you, because it may not be right away, right? Like you may have a connection with someone and it may be something where you don't even get to utilize or really do or help or something of that nature until 6, 8, 10 months later. But the fact that you're in community in the sense that you're supporting each other's work, or you're even bigging people up and saying like, hey, I love what you're doing. Like I'll be on the live tonight, or I'll be at the show next week, or whatever. When that comes time, people don't forget those things ever. Like Kara, I know I've known your work now for maybe like 4 or 5 years, follow it, share things, and we've never had the opportunity to work together on something until now. So it's like those things may not happen right away, but when they do, like when you called, I answered because I know your work, I know what you do in the community. I'm like, of course I'll do this. So it's like people are willing to show up for you because they see how you're showing up in community. And then when you do need something, you don't feel like a burden because you're kind of already in like unison, or at least you've been trying to create spaces for people to connect. So that's been my experience. I know it's not going to be the same across the board, but just know that as long as you keep showing up authentically, and even if it's just like the 300 people that respond or the 100 people that respond, that they will literally, like, they'll go hard for you. They'll read your stuff, they'll promote, they'll buy your products, they'll do those things. But just showing up for people has done the rest for me.
Okay, great. Very well said. I see we got Jaleesa back as well as Megan. So this by far has been one of the worst Wi-Fi situations in the history of the Caribbean Women's Network show. But at least you know, it's reconnecting most importantly. It's not like we've lost you guys entirely. So, Jaleesa, so we were just kind of wrapping up the end of the question and answers. So I'll touch base, not touch base, but I'll share one of the questions that they had earlier, Megan, and then I'll circle back to you with that last question there. One of the persons was asking, how do you deal with hate?
That is a great question. Honestly, you have to kind of just not take it too personally. Like, I think even with me, I think we're all human and we'll feel some type of way. But some good advice somebody gave me is just like, sometimes if you don't get hate, you're not doing something right. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, like, you just have to realize that you're going to move through life and you're going to be yourself. And whether you're however your personality is, some people just not going to like you for no reason. And there's nothing you could do about that. You understand? So I think the best thing to do is rest in the fact that, listen, who's for me will be for me, and who's not is not. And that's that. Honestly, like, I try not to focus on the negative, because if you focus on the negative, you'll always be mad at the world. So I just ignore it, to be honest.
Okay, good stuff. I know that I just actually looked at the time and realized it's almost 9:30, and I know a lot of us have to go as well. So there is one more question in the chat, so I can direct that to Megan, which is, how do we respectfully tell our elders that their words are hurtful? It's a very good question.
Oh yeah, that is a good question. I think I mean, I would ask for more context, but I guess just informing them that we're living in a different time, you know, as in some of the space of reading and understanding personal traumas. And I think it's easy for people to be highly critical when they're not in the position that you are in. And I think for our elders, it's also very difficult for them to adjust to the times that we're living in. I think it's important to be respectful and to let them know that their opinion is valid, and that you appreciate aspects of their opinion, and then to kind of stand firm into why it is that they shouldn't really get used to speaking to you like that. But I don't know. That's an interesting question. I don't know. I would literally just, how I would deal with it is not really a way that I would advise others. I only really like to take constructive, criticism from people who are living their lives constructively. And I genuinely believe that it doesn't matter if you're old or young, isn't able to do that without offending you. That's not really somebody you should be communicating with. So unless you tell them, you know, XYZ, this is receive, you know, support.
We're losing you again.
Criticism based on something that I may have presented to you. If somebody doesn't force them and protect yourself.
Okay, so we lost her again, I think, and she's actually in England, so I know that it's very late there as well. So if she joins, you know, we'll wrap up with her. But did you ladies, Melissa or Jaleesa, did you want to touch on that? How do we respectfully tell our elders that their words are hurtful?
Yeah, I think I don't have much to add there, but I would say that there's no like one blanket, you know, answer for that. I think that dealing with it, you have to deal with it in different ways. But I will say I can use the example of like, of course, that like quintessential like Caribbean like thought that, you know, your kids are supposed to go and become lawyers, doctors, those kinds of things, and anything else is just like So for me, having my family understand that being creative, storytelling is a career, right? Is something that they can be proud of. Was just kind of is having them show up for me, having them see the impact and the difference that I was able to make. And so to help them change their mindset. And I couldn't do it by simply continuing to point out that, hey, I can show you that I can do this. It was literally, instead of talking about it, I had to show them. And when it comes to other things, right, that maybe outside of career, it could be body image, it could be other things. It's a hard space to be in because we know the perceptions and the attitudes. But I think that one thing we have been able to do, especially now, is to find those spaces online or even in our own friendship groups or communities that we've created or we've joined, where people can encourage you to take that next step, right? To have those conversations, to know that what you're doing or what you're saying is not disrespectful, or it's not knowing your place. It's more so like, hey, there's a different way that we can approach this. There's a different way that we can have a conversation. There's a different way that we can go about greeting each other, right? And so there's a lot of unlearning and learning that is taking place. And it's important that we bring our elders along with us, but being delicate in that approach, but at the same time, using those same communities to help us do it, right? And so there's no one size fits all for that, but I think that's what has been able to help me. It's just kind of tapping into that a little bit and knowing that we're all learning and unlearning certain behaviors at the same time.
Thank you. Hey, Megan. Okay. Here we go. So before we wrap up, I typically ask this question to all of my panelists at all of my virtual shows. The entire world is watching right now, right? So, the billions are all tuned in. What is one message that you would want to leave with them? So we can start with 𝑾𝒐𝒎𝒆.
One message I would want to leave is, oh my gosh, there's so many that's popping into my head, honestly. Just go for it. Just go for it. Whatever it is you want to do, just go for it. You never know what's going to happen. There's never you never lose, you always learn.
I like that. Okay, thank you. And Megan, what's one message you would like to leave with the world?
Don't betray yourself, and don't betray yourself. You really only have one life as this person with these opportunities, surrounded by all these great people. So utilize your blessings and enjoy this experience.
Loving these messages. And Melissa?
I would say, do it and don't be afraid to do what it is that's on your heart, and people will follow. It took me a long time to even think that people would want to see, would really receive the stories that I tell on these major platforms about us as Caribbean people, to feel confident in that and wanting to be what didn't exist in the American news space, right? Like this Caribbean correspondent and do these things. But it's just like, I went for it. And then as I did the work, people came. So you don't always have to wait for it to be built. You can go for it and people will come, as long as you stay true to, you go for it and you stay true to it.
Love it. And because I'm all about love, I'm going to throw another one out there. Finish the sentence, each of you, okay? My love flows. Melissa?
I would say my love flows effortlessly. I give love out and love comes back in return.
Okay. Megan, my love flows.
Consistently, again, once I'm poured into, I pour right back. So reciprocity is a huge thing to me.
And last but not least, 𝑾𝒐𝒎𝒆, my love flows.
My love flows effortlessly. Okay. I think when you embody love, like it just flows out of you in everything that you do.
Amen. All right, ladies. Well, thank you again so much for, sharing your stories with us today. Thank you to all the viewers that have logged on, to all the viewers who will be watching this after this. Thank you for, clicking on that watch button and sharing space with us. So, I know it's very late where you are, Megan. So I appreciate you staying up till all hours of the morning in London. Melissa and Jalisa, I know you guys are both always on the go as well. So I appreciate you being able to carve out some time to sit with me and to chat with me and just to, share your truth as well. So thank you so much for being here with me today. I look forward to building with you guys and supporting you guys in the future in all of your endeavors. And, Naomi, I'm so happy that we were able to catch her as well, even though she was literally in transit at the airport heading to Jamaica. Unfortunately, Claudia was not able to join us today because she is not feeling well. So sending healing energies to her as well. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to just seeing your journeys continue and all of the amazing things that you guys are going to be doing as Caribbean women. We have to connect in a carnival soon. We got to all be in a city soon. And hopefully I'll be bringing Caribbean Women's Network luncheon event to one of your cities. So I'll definitely keep in touch with that as well. So thank you. I hope you guys have a blessed night. Again, thank you so much to everyone that was watching. Shout out to my sponsors, GenX Carnival. Make sure you guys check them out. If you're going to be in Miami for Carnival, that is the band that you need to play with. So any of you girls coming down from Miami Carnival, Mel, Jalisa, or Megan, definitely touch base with me. I got you guys covered. And also check out Discover Me Shop. They have body butters and body wash, all natural stuff. It's a Caribbean woman behind that brand. So make sure you guys go and support and show her love as well. All right. So thank you. Blessings to each and every one of you. Sending love and light. And we'll see you guys at the next show.
Take care.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.